All right, good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It is Thursday morning, and you know what? We haven't run this in way too damn long.
Win. This guy so much sack. He protect, he attack. This why no more homo erotic rocket ranches. Got it? Got it. Oh jeez. So much wang. America.
I miss running that sounder. So, and you know, it's been hard to run that sounder during COVID. It's been hard to identify Totar Wins. Um, and we didn't really do a show right when it went down with kicking the Chinese out of was it Houston or Austin? Houston. Um, that was a Totar Win moment. But what is today's Total Win moment? Well, I'm going to prevaricate about the bush a bit. I hope y'all noticed that the title of today's episode is Support Your Local Sheriff. And let me say why. Funny story, when you're talking about the police and whether or not you support the police, maybe you should ask yourself the question, do they support me? All right, we saw cases with the Chaz Chop situation. There was one in particular where a young man was shot, and the authorities, the Chaz Chop militia, the autonomous militants, basically communists wandering around with guns, refused to let the police into their autonomous zone, and as a result, EMS refused to enter the zone as well. Oh, y'all got to get in here and save this guy's life. No, we're not sending civilian emergency medical services into an active war zone without protection. That's not an option. Um, so we've seen that happening. We've seen we've seen a few things like, oh, let's see. Here's the New York Post. Federal agents likely permanently blinded by Portland protesters' lasers. White House says. Okay, that's a green one. Okay, I have one of these lasers. Mine's blue, and I could light a cigarette with it. When I was in Afghanistan, we used it to do three things. We'd light cigarettes with it. We would use it to write um, to write markings on the paper walls of the HESCO barriers for chuckles. I had a first sergeant and a commander down there that were especially entertained by it, and I used it for one very important tactical activity: anti-sniper operations. Oh, I wonder how a burning laser works for anti-sniper operations. Well, you kind of wave it over where the sniper is, and he can't snipe at you anymore. Why? Because it's a burning laser. I got mine for like $300 in 2009. Still works. And so now we've got protesters burning agents in the eyes with high-powered lasers. Guys, it looks like these agents might have been permanently blinded. Okay, that falls under maiming, right? As assaults go, that should be treated no different than if somebody ran up and chopped off one of their arms. You've taken away a man's sight, a man who's doing a job, a legitimate job. Well, let me tell you something. If you're the terrorist with this laser, okay, you know what? I feel like I was justified when I used my laser because I was in an active war zone. Let's go ahead and assume that you are also justified in using your laser in this context because you are in an active war zone. Let's go ahead and take that rhetoric for a moment.
Yeah, let's run that math and see how that equation balances.
Yeah, let's run that math. Because if this is an active war zone, if you're ready to use weapons of war, you're always complaining about weapons of war on the street. If you're willing to use weapons of war against federal officials, maybe it's time they open fire on you. Maybe it's time that a wall of umbrellas be treated like a properly authorized and target rich environment, which deserves to drink a lead salad. Because please believe, my brothers in arms spoke fluent 556. Fluent.
Yeah, and okay, so the actual total win. It's hysterical that all these police agencies have decided, nah, we're not guarding the DNC. Absolutely 100% fuck that noise.
And yeah, so I want to throw. I'm going to be a little cruel to Cameron here. I know Cameron had a busy day yesterday, and what he's tracking on this, as I understand, is only that I told him that several police agencies have said they're not going to. I didn't get you the juiciest part. Here's the best bit. More than 100 police departments. They're not saying they refuse to attend and provide security. No, no. Back out of agreements to help provide security for Democratic National Convention in Milwaukee. Originally, 1,000 officers from outside departments planned to assist. More than 100 police agencies are withdrawing from agreements to send personnel to bolster security at next month's Democratic National Convention in Milwaukee, in part because they're concerned about a recent directive ordering police in the city to stop using tear gas to control crowds.
Yeah,
So
it's
they're
funny.
not just saying that hey, don't come to us for your security. They're saying, no, no, we know we agreed to provide security, but then you changed all the rules and said you're going to be here and you're just going to stand around and be in mortal peril while we absolutely refuse to allow you to actually do your job and deprive you of the necessary tools to do that job safely and effectively.
Well, I got through all but the last few minutes of the Bill Barr thing yesterday, and these two things are related because, of course, in particular, those agents being blinded is one of the things Bill Barr kept going back to. I said, no, 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 no. The federal response is appropriate because we have people blinding agents. Like, and of course, the Democrats keep wanting to play the peaceful protesters. And Bill Barr's like, I have no problem with the peaceful protesters. I encourage them. I, I have a problem with the Molotov cocktails and the lasers
You
and
know, when the peaceful intensifies.
yeah, exactly, exactly. But the narrative coming from the Democrats is that this is exaggerated. It's a myth. It's not as bad as the Republicans say it is. So it's not just that they're pulling out because the tear gas has been restricted. They're pulling out because the Democrats are so busy saying that freedom is slavery and slavery is freedom. The officers are legitimately afraid uh, that something bad will happen to them, and then they don't get backed up. I mean, the case with Paul Howard charging the officers involved with the Rayshard Brooks situation is kind of like the main point of this. They don't want to be on the other side of it. And let's be clear, you're pulling this kind of security detail. I mean, that's like $40, $50 an hour type of. So, I mean, these cops they're not just backing out, they're walking away from money. They're
And
walking away from big money.
so there's Tim Pool and Ben Shapiro both talked about this a little bit. This is another part of this math, and it has to be. The violence right now is leftists in Democrat cities.
Yep.
So make no mistake, what's happening? actually has very little to do with conservatives or Donald Trump. What's happening is the extreme left is attacking the slightly less extreme left for not being adequately extreme leftist. Right? It you look at these protesters, these rioters, these insurrectionists. Please understand, the people that they're attacking, the people that they're burning, you know, even the liberals get the bullet is the rhetoric, right? Bam, by any means necessary. You're talking about people who were going after radical left wing nut jobs like J.K. Rowling and saying, "Well, sure, you're a radical feminist and a dangerous communist, but you're a trans exclusionary radical feminist because you believe that even though there's trans people, there's such a thing as biological gender." No, you're not permitted, lefties. You're not allowed to believe things that are true. That's not okay.
Yeah, the plantation is where you belong, and you're supposed to be happy being there because, well, everything's provided for you. Because that's technically true. Slaves have always got a place to sleep, slaves have always got something to eat. They can't be slaves if those things are not in place.
New shoes every year,
Yep. Yep.
free health care. Oh,
But no.
oh, wait, what?
Yeah, exactly. But yeah,
Free
the
food.
fact that this is a leftist city is going to make all these police a target-rich environment, and the cops have basically said anti-fuck you, and it is what it is. And to a certain extent, I even think this is sad. Like how quickly we've come to this point, because now you have cops that, I mean, I guarantee you these guys were going to get $50 an hour and as many hours as they wanted, and they just said,
Nope.
yeah, nope, not worth it.
Can't spend it if I'm dead.
That's exactly right.
And it's hard to
That's
spend it if I'm blind.
yeah, kind of tough to shop on Amazon when you can't see what you're clicking on.
Oh, no, I'm sure Alexa can just read everything to you. For that matter,
Still
she could
though.
just read your mind and tell you which way to go. Left. She's going to tell you to go left.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah, but total win. I mean, good for these cops because we're honestly coming to the point to where you have to ask the question, um, who in their right mind wants to be a cop in a blue city? Because let's be clear, we don't even really have blue states. We have blue cities. We have one of the things that Thomas Jefferson was afraid of, and why. I mean, we were originally under the Articles of Confederation, and the Articles of Confederation were so restrictive that the federal government literally couldn't function. So the Constitutional Convention is actually what created the Constitution that the country's governed under, and everything about federalism with regard to, oh, see, look at that, that's fantastic, that really makes the point. California's even hella red. It's just got some deep blue pockets. But part of the reason why electoral college is so that you didn't have city states dictate policy for the entire country. There had to be something to counterbalance it. And so, anyhow, these blue cities, who wants to be a cop in a blue city? Uh, I don't. I mean, I don't want to be a cop anyway. I don't like following rules. I already do that enough with the job that I have now. Um, but we're going to have a real IQ drain, and this is something that Papa Sheepdog and I have talked about. That what's going to happen is the younger officers are going to leave. The older officers are going to do the math. They're going to say, "Gosh, I'm 6 years away from pension. I'm just going to keep my head down for 6 years." So, if we do not stop this trend now, in between 5 and 10 years from now, some of the worst cops in the country are going to be in Chicago, in Houston, in Milwaukee. And it's going to be because all the young, smart ones leave because they're smart, and all the old, smart ones take retirement the second they can get it because they're smart. And it's just that simple.
You know, you look at this map. One of the things that we've talked about on this show, the 2016 election, they like to tout over and over again that Hillary won the popular vote by some, what was it, by 2 million votes or something.
Some million, some seven-figure number. I don't remember exactly what.
But if you look at her, results, and this map actually makes it pretty clear too. But more than half of all the votes that were cast for Hillary Clinton came from two cities over here, San Francisco and Los Angeles, Seattle, and New York. I think there may have been one more in that math when I did it before. I think it may have been. I think to get to the over 50% mark, I may have included Chicago, but all the 4 or 5 cities that made up more than 50% of all the votes that she garnered for the entire election cycle, they all had one very interesting thing in common, other than being deeply blue and heavily densely populated. You know what that other one factor was?
Sanctuary cities.
Sanctuary cities. Sanctuary cities that actively promote criminal aliens having the vote
And driver's licenses.
and driver's licenses. Um, they have another thing in common. When we talk about voter ID laws, the lefties like to say, "Well, but no, voter ID laws are racist because black people are too stupid to use computers. They don't know how to go to the DMV, and they can't afford the voter IDs." Okay, well, putting aside the first two incredibly racist and ridiculous claims, because guys, I know a lot of black people, and every one of them that I know has an ID and knows how to use the internet. In fact, I don't think I can think of a one that doesn't have a smartphone and knows how to use the internet and knows damn well where the DMV is. Right? There was a man on the street reporter gig where old boy walked around and asked a bunch of white people about it, and they told him, well, black people don't know how to use the internet, and they don't have access to the DMV, and they don't have enough money to buy things. And then he went to New York and asked a bunch of black people there, and they all said, "Oh, it's on the corner of whatever it was, like 157th and 96th." Yeah, I know exactly where. Like, it wasn't just it wasn't. Yeah, I could figure out what the DMV it was. It was no. I know the address. Okay, so there's that argument out the window. But funny story about the oh well, it, it's not fair because it costs money. Yeah, it only cost money in those states like California and New York and Washington that harbor criminal aliens and argue against the voter ID. The ID required the ID you're required to have to vote in the state of Georgia is a shall issue state issued ID that's issued at the DMV at zero cost. The equivalent in California cost almost $60. Oh, Oh, isn't that interesting?
Yep. Anyhow, man, I'm coming to the point to where I need to wrap up and walk in here and work this ticket. But God, this is fantastic.
Yeah,
It
it is.
really is. Every blue spot you see on there is going to have shite police in 5 to 10 years,
Or now.
and or now, or some of both. But I mean, I'll go back to what I said on Polytech's show last weekend. Um, at first, I was a big believer um, in doing the right thing, basically having federal agents protect federal property. But at this point, man, more and more and more and more and more, fuck them. Fuck them. You want to burn down the courthouse? Fine. Pull everybody out. Let them do it. And every parent learns this lesson, and it's a hard lesson. But when your child is learning to walk, you have to let them fall. You have to. It seems so counterintuitive. And the first few times you watch your baby take a tumble, it's terrifying. But it's funny. They get back up and then they stop falling. Well, these are children, at least mentally speaking. They've spent decades voting for this bullshit. And fuck them. Let them fall.
And real quick before you go, there is another way to read this particular map. If you look at it correctly, this map also looks like a pandemic map. You know, of the blue flu.
Wow, that joke had layers. That was good. That was punny, sir.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I'm a genius. And for more genius commentary and comedy like that, we'll see you tomorrow morning. And real quick before I let you go, Steve Rodemeyer, when you're watching, I just have to say that with what Cameron was just saying about watching your babies fall, I appreciate that after having spent some time with you and your family before I had my own, I was more than ready to just clap and laugh when Vera first smacked her nose into the learning curve. And thanks for that. Love you guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Y'all be safe out there. And make sure you share this video. Like, share, subscribe, lather, rinse, repeat. We'll see you back for the Bookfire Mind soon.